Mr. Lee Khai. Vincent, Francis, Patrick, Joo For's friends and family, art lovers, a very good afternoon to all of you. I've been here a few times, so opened a number of shows. Vincent, this is the first time I hear him talk about his framing. And so this is not the usual opening speech by him. Don't worry. But I must say, he is the only framer in the country with a branding. PINKGUY. You see the Swarovski diamond side of the phrase. You see that. So I'm very glad that I'm here today to open this show, talking about the Joo For. The other unique thing about PINKGUY Gallery is that he makes it very difficult for a person like me to open the show. This is not common in the world, having artwork veiled, covered up before the opening. He's very fair to all his collectors. He does not even show the VIP, the preview of books. I don't get to choose first. That's why he gives everyone a card, and first come, first serve when we unveil it. Of course, I have slight advantage when I unveil, I get to. But I'm glad that I'm opening Joo For shows and not other artists' show this time, because I'm familiar with his work. So at least I can speak not from the blind as much about Joo For. Joo For has returned to the Lord, as fellow Christian says, about 10 years ago. I have the privilege of meeting him in 2008 when the Penang State Art Gallery held his retrospective. He was about turning 80 then, in 2008. A retrospective is a very important show for an artist, showcasing the length and breadth of his work and his contribution, right, in our case, to the development of Penang art. So he is a very significant artist. In fact, the second artist that we had a major retrospective for after Khoo Swee Ho. Unfortunately, we also recently lost Khoo Swee Ho, who turned 86 in the US. Another very significant artist, and we are looking to have a celebration of his art and his life in Singapore, Penang, and Kuala Lumpur. Look out for that. Joo For. I met Joo For together with Francesca, Patrick's wife. First, I must talk about the name. Lee here and Lee here, they are two different Lees. Not only the person is different, the word is different. Right? So this is not the normal Mu Zi Li. Right? This Li is Li the Li. Fully the Li. It can mean benefit. It can mean sharpness. Right? Those who know Joo For, he was a very fiery person when he was young. He mellowed down a fair bit later in his life, perhaps because of his Christian faith. And the name is very unique, and I think it would have been the parents who even give the name.
Yeah.
And I love the name. It's Joo For, sharp like fire, right? Beneficial like fire, prosperous like fire, right? And I think it speaks very much of him. HorsePower. Of course, he is someone we call a polymath. Right? He's a painter, an artist, a sculptor, a printmaker, a playwright, all right, and an educator. He was a teacher for many years in St. Xavier's Institute in Penang. A novelist, right, a critic, and a thinker, right? And I think he moved effortlessly in between this discipline. If I remember correctly, one of the famous pioneer artists in Malaysia said that when he visited Joo For, these are many years ago, but at least more than 50 years ago, he was in his maybe 20s, 30s. He was already a shining star. He was already inspiring, right, even to a pioneer artist in Malaysia. And I think his artistic language derives from his Chinese cultural heritage, from his very unique Penang Malaysian upbringing, and the Western education that he received in England, in the Royal College of Art, and 2 other colleges in the UK. And I think beyond that, that wellspring of inspiration and ideas and power, I think comes from his Christian faith. As a fellow Christian, I've always admired the courage with which Joo For integrated his faith and art. Christian art used to be in the forefront of everything 500 years ago, right? Art is mainly Christian, but now it's at the niche of the niche, right? But Joo For, being a very convicted, pious believer, has always shown that conviction in his work, right? Whether it is his painting or his writing or his play. And I think his commitment to his faith is not superficial, it's not incidental, but it's an integral part of his artistic endeavor pursuit. The horse, I think, is one of the most enduring motifs in Joo For's over. I think it feeds as a very good focus, all right, of his art, showing his influence from the East and the West. And in his hand, the horse transcends mere representation. This year, it happened to be Chinese Year of the Horse, and you may immediately relate this to that. You can, right? But I think Joo For is doing much more than that. And it is a symbol of vitality, of strength, of freedom. Look at how expressive the horse is, how energetic that horse is. And I think it also shows perseverance and spiritual conviction. You see it branded with, this is the only piece that I can talk about. Such bold calligraphic energy. Many, when you think about Chinese art and you think about horse, you think about Xu Beihong, right? And I admire Joo for taking on this very Xu Beihong's motif, right? But having it in his very own style. Nowhere would you connect this calligraphy piece with Xu Beihong's horse, right? And yet, it is so strong. Right? Indeed, an artwork that is worthy of any art collection. Joo For from Malaysia traveled to the West for his education, settled down in Melbourne eventually for some good 20, 30 years. And I think that was why, like what Vincent said, he is underrepresented, right, in Malaysia. That is one big problem for Malaysian art. Malaysian art is so rich, so diverse, so interesting, so affordable because of but we don't talk about them enough. And one of my mission as the chairman of the Penang State Art Gallery and the advisor to the Penang Art District, and as a person active in the art, is to encourage Malaysians to drive our own narratives, tell our own story. Right? We can't wait for others to tell our story. We cannot wait for the West to tell us how good our art is. We ourselves have to do it. Right? And I'm encouraging people like Joo For. He may have passed on, right? But he's such a significant artist that we really need to have more and more writers writing. Currently in Malaysia, there's such a handful of art historian, art writers. Right? My good friend is Dr. PINKGUY. One person writing about 100 artists. I say how I wish one day we have 100 writers writing about one artist. Right? And we hope that one day people like Joo For will be much more represented and talked about and written about. But that actually would mean for us is that his art are undervalued and therefore worthy of you spending your money collecting it. So thank you for bringing the show here. Thank you, PINKGUY. Thank you, Patrick and Francis. Unfortunately, Francesca cannot be here because I hear that sister has a mouse stroke. It is such a pleasure for me to be here to spend this morning with you talking about Joo For, and it is with my great pleasure that I declare this show. Yes.
On behalf of Francisco, to say something
Yes.
for this exhibition.